Welcome into our Locked On NBA Insider Report. Ku Khahil from Locked On Pistons joining us for a special NBA Draft Lottery edition. Last year, the Pistons had all of the luck, right? They're the number one pick. This year, not so much as they fall down to 5. What was your immediate reaction to that and the disappointment in trying to talk yourself into it yet?
No, I'm actually not doing that. I think
Okay.
for me, that's like the worst part about it is that falling to fifth sucks, and I'm gonna have to spend the next month trying to talk myself into why it's okay and why it's actually good. So that's the tough
Wait,
part about it.
fair enough. You got a couple weeks to try to talk yourself into it. I'll try to help a little bit. It's not a typical year, right? We're not like, oh, this is the one guy that we need to get or it's bust, right? That it's, there's a couple different names out there. There's a couple different people have their eye on. Is there anyone that, if you had been top 3 that you are hoping might slide, or who are you kind of seeing that would be a great fit for Detroit?
Well, if they got top 3, it was Paolo, Jabari, or Chet. I don't think any of those guys are slipping. I think those guys will be the top 3. So I don't think any of those guys are slipping. I think the Pistons are probably looking at Shaedon Sharpe, Jaden Ivey, Murray, Mather. I think those are the group. That's the group that they're probably looking at right there. I know a lot of Pistons fans and a lot of fans seem to like Jaden Ivey. But I think it's going to come down between those guys right there, probably a guard or a wing that they're going to eventually have to take. If they got top 3, it would have been a big guy. But I think now we're looking at a backcourt pick here.
Is there any possibility that they could trade out of this, or now that they are lower than you think they are, do you think they'll kind of stay put and just try to add, some sort of whoever's best available at that point?
No, I don't think they're trading out of this. They're going to take the best player available. Troy Weaver, the whole calling card with him as a GM was his drafting, his talent evaluation, scouting. So Pistons fans, I guess that would be the silver lining to, you got a GM who's supposed to be making his money on draft night. So they're going to take the best player available. I think the one thing they could do though is possibly make a trade with Portland at 7 and possibly trade Jeremy. But outside of that, I think they're making this pick right here.
Obviously with this team, they've struggled recently. They are unfortunately very familiar with this section of the lottery. So what are you hoping they can add? Is it just, more talent, more raw athleticism? Like obviously Cade Cunningham was a great get, but what else would you like to see them add to this team?
The Pistons are at a point right now where they need to just get best talent. They just need to get talent all over the roster. They got Cade, but like outside of that, they don't really have any high end talent. Sadiq Bey is okay. But if we're talking high-end talent, like blue chip prospects, they don't really have that outside of Cade. So that's what they need right now. You talk to some people, they'll say outside shooting. Some people will say an interior presence. The reality is they just need talent, and they need to stack up as much talent as possible, and then they can worry about fit later. But I think right now they're still looking for just stacking up the best talent possible.
For those that don't watch the Pistons as much, are they still trying to like build their identity? Obviously, they had Cade, who's a very special player, but just like kind of trying to find an identity when you don't win as many games. It's like, let's see what works.
That's actually a good question. I don't think the Pistons really have an identity right now. I think right now they're just a team of guys who play really hard. And that's a good question. I don't really know what I would say their identity is right now. They're still trying to build it. I don't think they have their coach of the future right now either. So I think that's eventually going to play a part of what their identity will be. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they want to do this upcoming season. I'm assuming they'll want to start building the identity soon. And it'll be interesting to see what route they take. I can't have an answer for that one right now.
I mean, that's always the thing, right? Like you have to trust the front office to build this team, but we got to see what it ends up actually being like. So we'll keep an eye on things. Not exactly what we wanted, not as good as last year, but they're still up there. So we'll see what ends up happening at 5 for Detroit. Ku, thanks for joining us. I'm Kainani Stevens. This has been Locked On NBA.